Okay, so hi Megan, thank you for being here with me today. And before we just jump into it, I'm a stepmom, you're a single mom, and we met on Instagram through your Instagram actually. I followed you first. So it was through my sobriety because I gave up alcohol in December 2019. But yeah, this podcast is not going to be much about sobriety, it's going to be about stepmomming and being single mom and everything like that. But before we go into it, can you just introduce yourself to us? Let us know what you do, who you are.
Sure. I'm Megan. I'm 32. I live in Kent in the UK. I have two children. I have a 7-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son. I split with their dad, oh God, 5.5 years ago. So yes, I've been doing the solo parenting thing for quite some time, although we do have a very good relationship, and I would say that ours is probably better than some that are out there. There are still things that happen, of course, but yeah, I work full time in financial services, and yeah, try and fit in as much as I can in my spare time, sort of fitness and friends and the rest of it. Yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, that's you. And I really love your Instagram, which is Sober Story.
Yeah.
And you share a lot about like your journey about with sobriety, but even the journey as you as a person, and how you grow and what you struggle with in the past and how you overcome that. And it's really, I just love it. It's interesting to read and everything. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone, or
Yeah,
oh.
thank you. Yeah, I think for me, being that open has really, really helped me. But also I know that it helps other people. So that's why I'm always quite happy to talk about every aspect of my life, really. So either, sobriety, fitness, to being a single parent. So yeah, I find it's just putting it out there helps other people.
It's fantastic, and I'm sure a lot of people are really grateful for what you do on your Instagram. Okay, so let's just dive in, and I would like to ask you, what is, like day to day life as a single mom? Sorry, I probably will miss say it a lot.
Fine. God, day to day, it is manic. So a kind of typical day during the week starts at about 6 a.m. for me. Getting the kids up, breakfast, getting them ready for school, all of that kind of stuff. And then we live about 40 minutes away from their school and from my office. So have to drive to do the school run. I moved house at the end of last year, so I made life more complicated for myself. But I wanted to be more rural, but also it meant that I was able to buy a house. So made the move. So yeah, school run, and then I'm at work all day. So I have flexible hours at work. So 2 days a week, I finish at 3 o'clock, which means that I do the school run. But the other days, the kids are at after school club until 5 o'clock, and I pick them up then. And then it's home for, dinner, bedtime, all of that kind of stuff. And then in the evenings, I spend either time with friends. So quite often, my friends are really great, and they'll come to me, obviously. I'm also studying, so I try and fit that in. And yeah, I mean, it's hectic because I have to fit in, going to the gym on my lunch break, and the things that are really helpful for me as a person, like going to the gym. Yeah, it's a case of I'm juggling a lot. Yeah, so the kids are actually there with their dad on Tuesday nights, and then we do alternate weekends. So yeah, so they're there with me the bulk of the time. But yeah, it is a massive juggling act, and it's one that I'm in a really good routine now, but it has taken a long time to for it to just flow for and the kids are really, really good. I think they understand now, especially that they're a little bit older, that what they can do to sort of help, especially in the mornings, they get themselves ready, dressed and all that kind of stuff. So it does ease the pressure on me to kind of get everyone out the door. But yeah, it's getting easier the older they get.
That's fantastic because when we were talking on the phone, I think it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or week before. When you start describing, I was like, how do you do that alone? Because you have a kid's majority of time. And I was like, how do I do that? Because you have to have some support system or how did you, you said it took you some time to create that balance.
Yeah.
Are there any tips or anything would really help you to create that balance?
Oh God. I think daily for me, I choose what to prioritize. So for me, there are always things that are on the back burner, like putting away laundry. I have a
Oh no.
this years is that like that's the kind of stuff that for me it just can wait. I would rather use that time like with the kids or doing something else. So um yeah, so there's always laundry, always. I mean, I think that's probably the case anyways, but I also I used to put myself under a lot more pressure, and I've learnt to ease certain things. So, for example, cooking dinner. Now I don't. I used to feel really guilty if I hadn't prepared like a proper meal for the kids in the evening, and the guilt that I felt about it was so like it was ridiculous. They have school dinners, and I think what, they're getting a hot meal at lunchtime. It doesn't really matter if we have scrambled eggs on toast for dinner. So it's that kind of thing. I've learned where I can ease the pressure on myself, and a lot of it really was self-imposed. So it's taken a while to look at things and think, actually, you know what, I can let that go, or I can be more flexible with that, or does that really need to happen right now? One of the best investments of money I use, I have a cleaner come once a week just to help me. It's £24, and I think, like, especially since having stopped drinking, I have a little bit more cash spare for things like that. So um it just makes all the difference to go, oh, you know what, at least once a week I walk in the door and the house is pristine. Like, fine, the laundry might not be done, but I walk in and the floor's clean, the bathrooms are clean, and I just, oh God, it makes me feel good. So there's lots of little things every day, and it's things like um I guess also I'm aware that it's only me and my energy and time only goes so far. So I've learned that, you know what, if I'm feeling run down or tired, I need to ease back on the things that I perhaps want to do as well. So, like, if I'm not quite, 100%, I won't go to the gym or anything, because I don't want to make myself feel worse by exhausting myself. So I've learned to be a lot more gentle with myself as well. So that definitely helps with the balancing of everything.
Other great tips, because I'm sure even like stepmoms or any women, can relate to that. And I actually notice, yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing so many things around the house, and letting go of the guilt as well. Because as a stepmom, we have a like weird, whatever you just described it, we have a weird version of it. So when we have a stepchildren, we kind of like, we are so unclear on what are our roles and responsibilities when it comes to children, when it comes to, parenting or co-parenting, or it's just so much we are unclear, and we are so scared to do something, because if we do like too much, would that upset the mom? Or if we do too little, would that upset mom as well? So it's just so much and I can understand that it can create confusion between moms and stepmoms, because it's like, oh, we would love to help, like, I don't know, like washing the children's clothes when they are with us, or whatever, little things that can help you, or even like, you don't need to bring your children clothes, they will have clothes with us, so you don't have the extra packing and unpacking. But there's something that we are really just unclear and maybe scared to talk to the moms about it. Yeah. Would you think that, like, as if stepmom, well, because you have a kind of stepmom figure in your children's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not. And would you think that if she will come to you and just like talk to you straight away, would that help? Would that make your life easier?
I
Or
think me, yeah. But I guess it's just so dependent on the individual situation, obviously. Um, I it is an unusual one to navigate. I think especially like for my situation, my ex-husband and his girlfriend have been together about a year. And I can totally understand that at the beginning, especially, at the start of a, new relationship, you don't know where it's going necessarily. And so you wouldn't necessarily want to invest as a stepmom that amount of time or energy or effort into the parenting side of things if you don't really know where it's going. I think as soon as the relationship evolves and goes to a much more involved level, like my ex and his girlfriend have just bought a house together, they're living together, and obviously that means that she's much more involved in the children's lives. I think then at that point the relationship does start to change. But I think I've been very fortunate that my ex-husband's girlfriend, she's very hands-on with the kids, which I like, because I think nothing would annoy me more than yeah, if the kids were there and perhaps being ignored, or I don't really know how to explain it, but I think, from my point of view, the more love and affection and attention that the kids get, the better. And if that comes from, a friend or from a step parent or however that looks, for me, it's only a positive if the kids are receiving more love, and from as many different sources as well. I, with my friends, with my good girlfriends, it's the same kind of relationship, in some respects. They're quite happy to take on a, come on, let's do this. Let's make sure you've read your books, or, you've done this or you've done that. Or, they'll quite often be like, oh, come on, listen to mummy, and, make sure you go up and brush your teeth or whatever. So I think, that really active role in raising children, whether you're intimately part of their lives or whether you're, just a friend kind of round for the evening, I think it's so, so important, because it's not, raising children isn't a solo activity. There's so many different people involved, whether it's extended family or school or whoever else. So for me, I definitely appreciate communication, but I'm also quite, I understand it could be intimidating for a step parent, especially if the breakup, wasn't good, or if the situation's quite tense. I can imagine that there's a lot of walking on eggshells in that regard. So yeah, it's a very, very tricky one to navigate. But I'm a big believer that communication is helps solve so much.
no, I totally agree because I was at the beginning, I just like wasn't sure. And I was like really like working on eggshells or tiptoeing. And then I was
Yeah.
trying way too hard, and sending email like, oh, we are doing this now. Should, like we are doing this in terms of like discipline or rules in the house. And then I got an email back. I was like, oh, I don't really, as long, certainly, no lying, no kicking, no hitting, no, there's like the certain rules are set. Like, you do whatever you want in your house, And I
Yeah.
think that's very important for us stepmoms to just stop overthinking it. And instead of going through the partner and, can you tell your ex that, you can or she can do or you won't do. Sometimes it's easy if that is possible, because obviously every situation is
Yeah.
different, every relationship is different. But if there is the possibility, always just like try to communicate with the mom straight away, or just let her know that, like, and get that feedback or get whatever you need. It's the information as a stepmom to get from the mom, because I think it comes when the mom, like you're like, okay, well, I know what's going on, at least when they are with
Yeah.
with the dad, and I know the stepmom or whatever figure, girlfriend is hands on, or my kids are safe and they're loved, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, there's only been kind of one real boundary that I've asked for, and that's that if the kids are going to be left alone with their dad's girlfriend, that they just let me know. And it's not that I have an issue with her looking after them or anything like that. It's more just so that I'm aware if something was to happen, that I know what's going on. But to be honest, I think like more and more now, I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I think it was more that was kind of a earlier on sort of thing. But yeah, like I think I'm very much the same in terms of what you described, as long as the kids are happy, healthy, and, things that have to be done, like homework and whatever, as long as all that's happening and, they're happy and loved, what happens in their home that's their business. And equally in my home, I wouldn't expect them to be telling me how to do things. So so
Yeah.
there's that flip side, like I couldn't be there making demands of what they should or shouldn't do if without expecting that in return. So yeah, our relationship's very much there are certain things that we come together with, family events, that kind of stuff, and we have, I suppose, a lot of similar sorts of rules, and we'll communicate about bigger stuff, but kind of the day to day, no, it just, yeah, we get on with it. We trust each other to know that we've got the children's best interests at heart, and that's the important thing.
That's brilliant. And I know like if stepmom's listening right now, you may not be in that situation right now or in that level, but you need to, kind of step by step creating, because as you said, it wasn't, easy. It just didn't happen over a day or over a night. You just had to slowly get there. Wherever you are in your situation, just you can improve it, or if it's perfect, you just leave it there. And as well, when kids are growing, obviously the issues are changing or the problems are changing. So we can't just like, okay, now we are great and this is gonna be for the rest of our lives. Like, no. They're gonna
Yeah.
be teenagers. But I would like to now ask you how it's like, what is a co-parenting as a single mom when you need to decide about a, discipline, or what do you want for your children in the future, or if you have a different parenting styles or boundaries, like how do you
Yeah.
navigate that?
So this is all stuff that has been the trickiest stuff in the relationship with their dad, because we do have quite different parenting styles. And I think definitely historically, a lot of the discipline has just fallen to me. And the same kind of standards of behavior haven't been upheld in his house. So it has caused a lot of friction because, there's been loads of times that I'm like, can you please do this way? For example, consistent bedtimes. And even though I've explained the rationale, I would often get quite a lot of pushback from him saying, "Oh, you're just being too strict." And I was like, "No, because if, having that consistency for them is super, super important. Them, not being overly tired, that, has knock-on effect on their behavior when they are, so really trying to get the basics nailed for them, especially kind of when I would say in the first couple of years, he just wasn't great at that. And it did cause a lot of friction between us. Um, but that definitely has changed. I think he's begun to see a lot more that it it's not just that I'm wanting to impose, strict rules or whatever, but it's actually for the benefit of everyone. That, it's not that I'm like, I want it this way, I'm a control freak. It's what's actually gonna help everyone in the situation, because dealing with tired children, for example, is just not fun for anyone. Um, so yeah, I think it has evolved so much over the last couple of years. But now, like, I think generally now we tend to be on the same sort of page about things. One thing, technology has been a real bugbear, because he's of the mind that it doesn't matter if they've got a PlayStation or if they're on an iPad or if they've got this, that, or the other. Whereas for me, I've been very anti that. My sort of thinking is, they should be tying their shoelaces before they're playing on a PlayStation. but it has meant that there's been different standards in his home with regards to technology than there has been here. But then that said, I would say I get a lot less grief about certain things. He has to deal with more tantrums about technology and whatever. So I'm like, well, who's the real winner in this situation? Also, I think for me, things around food have been like, I don't give the kids McDonald's, KFC, anything like that. I just, from my point of view, I don't think it's something that's good to start adding to a child's diet. When they're old enough and they've got their own money, and if they want to buy junk food in that kind of way, fine. But as a parent, I'm choosing not to give that to them. They already get, burgers and stuff at school. I give them treats. We go out for ice creams or, hot chocolates or whatever. So, it's not like they're deprived in any way of treats. I just don't think that should be a norm in their life. I think it's, for me, fresh, healthy food is really important, and getting kids used to that from an early age. It's how, I was raised, and I now eat everything. So I think for me, that's always been very important. And he doesn't share those same values. But then also the kids will nag him about going to McDonald's or Burger King, and they've never asked me. So again, it's, I think the kids know where they stand with me, and maybe they feel like there's less flexibility with certain things. But yeah, so I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff that's been a learning curve, but I've also had to, accept that the way that he does things is his way, and it's not worth arguing about those things. As I said, what happens in his home is his business. So yeah, but that has been one thing that's been very, very difficult over the years, to try and navigate those situations. And it's constantly changing. So that's the other thing, is that those boundaries, the rules, everything adjusts slightly all the time. So we're getting there.
Exactly. It's like it's never ending story. And it's like no matter like if you parenting or co-parenting or if you step parent, it's just on go. Like you never are done with this process. And what I think when you were talking about like different, like, whatever is happening in his house, it's he needs to deal with the tantrums, or he needs to deal with, what his responsibility is for. But one thing is just, as a stepmom, I was always really, like in the past, and now I'm good, but I was always unclear on like, or scared that I will cross the mom's boundaries. And I did obviously make mistakes. I think like I once tried kind of parent in front of both parents, or just said something what obviously was upsetting. I was like, "Oh, you don't do that next time." I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't do that anymore," because it was just not intentional, but it's just something what I said, and it can trigger the parent. But a lot of stepmoms are dealing with like similar situation. You said that, you are in charge a lot of things, or you are pushing like healthy eating and discipline and this and that. And as a stepmoms, I feel like I'm dealing with the similar things. Like we're always saying like I was the bad cop here. I was always like, I do this, I clean and eat this, and just navigate everything and making some sort of order in the house. But what I had to deal with my husband was that, and a lot of stepmoms will agree with me, that at the beginning he was really scared to discipline, because he thought that if he will discipline, or if he says no, his daughter will go home, will complain, and she will not like to come back again. And that's a lot of dads are doing this or dealing with this. And obviously as a stepmoms, we are dealing with that, because we want to, kind of carry on with whatever you do at home, because we may have the same parenting style or same values. But then dads come, they come, and they just go out of the window. So what would you actually recommend to dads if they are scared that their kids will not come if they will discipline?
See, I don't know that it was ever that in my scenario. I think it was just that, because my ex was so used to me doing so much of it that actually he didn't have the knowledge of how certain things were done. I mean, like when we split up, my youngest was 11 months old. So, like he hadn't actually, because he was at work, he hadn't actually spent, a huge amount of time with the kids one on one, anyways. Um, so I think it was a lot of it was just a learning curve for him, whereas I was so much more used to their routine, what they, how to do things because I'd just done more of it. Um, so I think it was, that was the struggle, I think, for my ex-husband was just, you know, actually having the practical skills for, so much of it and, actually managing all of that because, to go from spending maybe a little bit of time in the evening and a little bit of weekend time to actually then having them on your own, and especially with babies as well because they're just so much more mummy focused. I think I can see how it would have been quite a struggle for him. In terms of the discipline side of things, I don't know. I think like I have struggled to see it from his perspective because I feel like I've been very clear in saying, look, if you just do these simple things in terms of discipline, it makes XYZ so much easier. And it was almost, I think the pushback from him was like, oh no, you don't get to tell me what to do. And it was more that. And I think, I mean, our relationship has changed so much that I don't necessarily get that kind of response now. Um, but again, I think it just boils down to, the fact that actually, if everyone is consistent, you don't need to do as much disciplining. So like that those situations don't arise quite in the same way. If the same standards of behavior are expected wherever the children go, so whether it's school or, wherever else, you don't there's less of it to do because they just know and they know what the consequence for that certain kind of behavior is, and so you don't have to keep doing it, and there's not different rules at mummies or daddies, it's this is just what's done and this is basic levels of respect and standards of behavior. It's little things like washing your hands before eating, or like just stuff that general life skills even. So I think in terms of that kind of stuff, I think also I can imagine that it's quite difficult when you're the parent that doesn't have the child very much, and so the child might be acting up more because it's not their normal environment, sort of day to day. And, maybe they are just acting up a little bit more. And so the parent that doesn't have them as much maybe doesn't want to go, actually, I don't want to ruin the minimal time that I've got with them by having to shout and everything else. So I'm just going to let this stuff slide. So I can definitely see it from that perspective, but it does have a knock-on effect. When they come back and they've been like unruly all weekend, like it's definitely been the case for me in the past where like I used to dread getting the kids back from their dads because they would just be wild, like wild. And I'd be like, oh God, like it almost felt at one point like I'd get them into a lovely routine all week long. They'd go to their dads at the weekend, come back, and I'd be starting from scratch. That's really how it felt for a long, long time. Um, so I think definitely having an understanding of each other's perspectives is so, so key because it's if you can't see why the other person might be doing why a certain thing, and if you're constantly taking things personally, which I think it's so easy to do, just to go, well, they just clearly can't be bothered, or clearly they don't care, or if you approach situations with those sorts of attitudes, you're only ever gonna it just feeds that negative narrative. And I think for me, having the understanding that what, we're just all trying to do our best, and it's not an easy situation for anyone. It's different, obviously, but it's not a competition. And it is just, yeah, but still having to be a team player with someone that you don't even necessarily get along with is so hard, but it's definitely the easiest way to resolve things.
I was when you said that, picking up your children sometimes was really difficult because they were acting out. I could see that like so many stepmoms are like, well, but they are acting out with us as well. And a lot of I heard a lot that they coming to us and they are acting out. So that means they are bringing it from the mom's home. So that means they are acting like that there all the time. And I was like, well, you don't know that. You can't be sure because you don't have like hidden cameras in each other's house and knowing what's going on. So I think it would be this would be really helpful for stepmoms because to actually hear, no, they're coming to me and they are acting out and they just I have to bring them back to the routine. So it's not every step parent and parent situation, but or case, but it's a both sides and we can't just go and like, oh, they're acting out because of you or because of her, or you don't know if you don't communicate, or if you say, hey, they're acting out with me. So we have to communicate. And if, for example, when we were changing rules and discipline, we actually at some point, my husband went to his ex-wife and he communicated that her, because he was scared if he will change the discipline, if he will change the rules, and she wasn't used to it in our house, it will cause the problem. And she will decide like she doesn't want to be with us anymore. So he went to his ex-wife and he said, okay, we are dealing with this, and this. We're changing these rules, we're changing these things. Just in case she comes to you and she will be unhappy or something, you know what's going on. Yeah, so because you never know, kids can go home and they just can like, well, I'm unhappy there. They are treating me like I don't know what. They are bullies, and then the mom obviously, understandably, freaks out. What's going on? Calls to the ex husband or ex wife, and like, "Oh, what now? What are you doing there?" So
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's definitely been stories or things that have been relayed to me in a certain way, and it's hard not to be reactive. And then, but the reality is that kids are smart as well, and sometimes that they are just playing you. And so there's been a few occasions, like now I approach things very differently, and I'll send their dad a message and say, "You'll never guess what I've just been told. Any truth to this at all?" you know, so we do communicate those things quite differently now. Whereas before, often it got used as ammunition. Well, they said this about you, or they said this, or so it was quite but yeah, now there's a lot that I take with a pinch of salt. And also, it's like the classic when I, pick the kids up from school and I'm like, how's your day? What did you do? And they're like, nothing. We ate pasta at lunch or whatever. Like it's the same often when I pick them up at the weekend and say, oh, how's your weekend? Did you do anything nice? And they're like, no. And I'm like, before I'd be like, oh, why isn't their dad doing anything with them? Like, oh, why is he being lazy? Whereas now I'm like, well, they've probably done stuff and they're just not telling me. They've probably had a lovely time, but um, so that's the other thing, is that actually I don't really go to the kids for, like, if I need information like that, I will just ask their dad. I won't then go, like take their word for everything, because it just, yeah, like
absolutely,
they're
yeah.
not that reliable.
Yeah, they're not. We had a few calls, and when we heard, I was like, "What?" And then she didn't, my stepdaughter didn't come up with a crazy story or anything, but she just said something was concerning, and it's like it looked like she's really unhappy here. But when she is here, it's like, what? She's the happiest child here. So, but you never know, because maybe she said it because she wants to protect her mom, or she wants to make her happy, or she just finds easy to say, like your children, like, oh, we didn't do anything. They just have their own language, and they don't always know how to express their feelings. And it just, we can't make it too much out of it because we will drive each other crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be a lot of upset. So I did while back. I did a blog about what I don't want to hear as a stepmom, and there are so many things that stepmoms don't like to hear. But I would like to ask you if there are any things like you don't like to hear as a single mom or as a mom.
Oh God, I had something the other day, which someone I bumped into one of the mums from school, And she was like, "Oh, you must have so much spare time as a single mum, because your ex takes the kids." And I was like, "Are you crazy?" I was like, every other weekend is not a lot of spare time. And I was like, and I'm having to fit in so much more in less time. I was just like, what? No, like it was really, really odd. And so I think also I feel like I fight very hard against, certain kinds of stereotypes as well in terms of being a single parent. I think I really hate that term anyways. I think there's the idea that if you're a single parent, that, you'll be claiming benefits, that you'll be, you know, I don't know, a bit, stuck in your life or whatever. And it's the opposite of how I am. One thing actually that I get, and it's like, I literally get this comment weekly. It like, I always get, "You don't look like a mum," all the time. And I think like I do look young for my age. So, I'm 32, but like, I think because I'm quite athletic and toned, I literally get that all the time. And I always say, "Oh, what does a mum look like?" Like, but people like, I genuinely get that so often. It's just so bizarre. And I don't like, because I don't think that my appearance has anything to do with the fact that I'm a parent. It's so weird. But yeah, I don't know. So that's one thing. I mean, it's not even related to parenting really, but I just like, it winds me up so much. I'm like, no, like what does that even mean? It's like, like, how do mums look? Am I supposed to look mumsy, or like what does that even mean? But yeah, people often, they mean it as a compliment, obviously, but it's a very weird one. I get that so much. Like
You
all
wouldn't
the time.
you wouldn't go to a guy who is fit and who's like have a three kids, let's say, and he's like healthy looking, young looking and fit. Like you wouldn't go like, "Oh, you don't look like that." You wouldn't
Yeah,
go to a
exactly.
guy and say that. So why? That's interesting.
Um, yeah, so I think that one for me is probably the weirdest one. To be honest, I think I I do tend to get a lot of positive remarks, like especially from my friends, and I think who know how much I'm juggling, and I do get a lot of positive comments from them. So like generally it's not negative, but I think I'm very aware of certain kinds of stereotypes. And yeah, so for me it's more that maybe people aren't even saying things, but like it's in the back of my head. So I do think like, oh, people might think this about me or that about me. And I guess I do think, like I have encountered it in kind of like the dating environment, where I think quite often people have the assumption that like maybe I don't work, for example. um so yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, I think it's, yeah, no one's the same.
Yeah, do you think because when you said I'm a single mom and if you say I'm a stepmom, I don't know if I'm right here, but sometimes I feel like when you say a stepmom, like, "Oh, I'm a stepmom," everyone like, "Ooh," like, are we talk ever at a school, like, are we allowed to talk to you, or should we be on the mom side, or uh, usually stepmoms got like, "Oh, we are the home wreckers," or "We were responsible for the breakups or divorces," or so the stepmoms are usually when you say I'm a stepmom, everyone like, what now? What to say now?
Yeah.
Do you think if you say a single mom, do you think like people feel more like a sorry for you, or they feel like, "Oh, poor her, she's a single mom," or
um I don't know. I think I don't know that people necessarily think that about me. I think because I do handle so much of it so well. But I do think that people have kind of ideas in their head about what things must be like. So like the comment about the woman who I bumped into who said, "Oh, you must have all this spare time." And I'm like, no, like, are you nuts? I'm a mum of two. What spare time do you think I have? Like my spare time is spent like doing the laundry and like yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's an unusual one because I actually haven't encountered that many step parents like at my kids' school, but I don't know that I would have a different view. I think like I'm very lucky with the school that my kids go to. There's such a wide variety of family dynamics. So there's a lot of single parents, there's young mums, there's older mums, there's same-sex couples. There are children that have been adopted. There are children who have been conceived using artificial insemination. There's, kids that have got donor sperm parent. They're God, all sorts. Like there is such variety. And so there's not really any kind of like normal. But I do think that people they like a bit of gossip. And so if there is a bit of a story, then they're like, "Ooh, what is the story?" But I kind of think that that's in all of the scenarios. Actually, I would say that far and large at my kids' school, the parents that are like the sort of normal cis couple who are married, they're not actually in the majority anymore. Like there are so many divorced or single parents or like it's just like it's normal now to not have parents that are together. So I don't think that there's necessarily that same attitude because it's just so common. Like what do they over half of marriages fail? So if you're thinking about those statistics, it's just very normal to have a step parent or I know from my kids' perspective, yeah, they chat to their little friends about mummy's boyfriend or daddy's girlfriend or and it's just very, very normal. Like I don't think it's a weird thing for them anymore, and I certainly don't think from me, I don't view other parent figures in that kind of way.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because it is important, to just let the comments or gossips just go away and you do you. So you mentioned a bit of dating. So how is it dating for single mom like?
So I think for me, it's particularly difficult just in terms of like time, like where do I fit in another person into everything that I've got going on. Also, I don't like the dating apps. I've actually had I've had some positive experiences on them, but like I've also had some very negative ones, and even people that you'll match with, and then they'll say, "Oh, I've just seen you've got kids. Sorry, not really into that." I've had even situations like that where, yeah, it's not. It is very difficult. I've had a few boyfriends since my ex-husband and I split up, um, who've met the kids and everything else. But it's like, I think for me now, it's about finding the right person to be in our lives. So I don't really, it means dating's very different when you've got children. I mean, you must, because you have to think about everything else so much more right up front. It's like, well, how would this person's life fit with ours? You're already thinking about long-term stuff before you even really know that person. So it's a very interesting one. And I'm actually at the moment I'm taking a back seat from dating just because I want to focus on myself and the kids a little bit more. Just I don't want any more distraction from, all the stuff that we've got going on right now. Just being me and the kids for a little while. Um, but it is, yeah, it's tricky. And I think especially when you haven't got that much free time, then trying to fit in dates or getting to know someone, it's a lot to juggle. And it has meant that, historically I've maybe introduced people to, like boyfriends to the children earlier than I would have done, just purely because, trying to fit everything in has been quite difficult. It's something that as the children get older, I'm a lot more conscious of, that I don't just want to, date someone for a couple of months and then actually it not pan out, but the kids have met them. And I don't want to start, putting those sorts of ideas in their heads. So I'm being a lot more cautious now. I think when they were younger, yeah, I had a boyfriend who was it was around 3 years, so he was very involved with them, and I think yeah, when that ended, I think it, the impact of him, not being with me anymore, they weren't upset about him, they were upset for me, as in me upset them. So I'm keen to avoid as much of that, because it did really have a knock-on effect, and the emotional toll from the relationship as well had a knock-on effect on the amount of patience that I had, the amount of energy that I had to give to the kids. And so it's that I completely want to avoid going forward, that I want to be able to give the best version of me to the children always. So I need, well, needs the wrong word. I would like to find someone at some point that where it's just positive. So whenever that happens. Yeah, I'm not in any rush. So for me, dating around kids it's been interesting. But yeah, but such a learning curve as well, I think. Yeah, but I'm good for now. Like, things will happen when they're supposed to happen.
That's perfect, because I was actually, when we were talking over the phone, you said something what really upset me and triggered me, and it actually made me emotional and made my husband emotional when I told him, and he couldn't believe it. You said that some of the guys told you you would be perfect if you wouldn't have your children.
Oh yeah, no, I've had, yeah, comments like that made, like, not from anyone significant. I mean, I did have the same boyfriend that was sort of about 3 years. He, in moments of anger, he said things like that he wanted his own family, or that he didn't want to be raising someone else's children. He used more colourful language than that, but it was that kind of stuff, like that I should almost feel bad for the fact that I had children, or that, like, oh, if this aspect of my life didn't exist, then, then our relationship would be good. Or, but, and I think at the time it really did affect me, because I already felt like, this journey of being a mother was not the one that I signed up for at all. I did not sign up for being a single mother. And then to have that kind of almost thrown back in your face and saying, well, you're not good enough because you've got children. I think that's been something that for me has been letting go of a lot of stuff. It's been a journey for me. And I think actually, understanding that for me, like, I just cannot have anyone like that anywhere near me, because I've got nothing to be ashamed of, and my children are definitely the best part of my life. And that if, someone can't see the value in what I'm doing as a mother, or can't see, the value of my children, who are just so amazing, then they don't deserve to be anywhere near my life.
No, absolutely, because really, it's still upsetting me, because I was thinking, like, how can you say that to somebody? Like, if you would say, like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not ready for this, or I don't think I can do this, fair enough,
That person acknowledging their own limitations, and it would also mean that person accepting responsibility for their actions and emotions. And most people just aren't able to do that. It's so much easier to put it on someone else and go, you know what, oh, this is you, rather than going, you know what, I am limited as a person, or I'm not emotionally capable to deal with this, it is on me. And I think that, yeah, so that for me, again, I'm someone that's taken on a lot of responsibility in my life. I've made so many changes, I've taken accountability for so much of my life and behavior, and I need someone who's really going to be able to match that. And unfortunately, there's not that many people around that are like that. So but I'm so happy with what I have now. I don't feel like my life is lacking because I don't have a partner. I have the most amazing friends. They really are such a support for me. And I don't, my life is fun. I enjoy the time that I have with the kids. I've got a good job, So for me, a partner would be the icing on the cake, but it's not the be all and end all of my life. So, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Because I think, and when we had a chat before, I always thought like I don't know how I should feel, or like should I, with the mother of my stepdaughter, like sometimes people ask me, is she dating? And I was like, I don't know. Like we don't talk about these things, so I don't really know what she's doing. But now I can imagine like having the, extra time for yourself, all the spare time, I was like, I'd probably be so tired after all week of running around. I would just chill out, see my friends, and just not being worried with any kind of prick in my life. Rather do that with the friends than just be and pushing myself to be someone else or trying really, really hard to impress someone who's not even worth it.
Yeah, I would say, and I think not just that, but it's the brain space to do, like, to be thinking about someone else. I'm like, I need to date someone who's going to be thinking about me. I have no room in my brain to be factoring someone else's schedule. I'm already handling all these schedules already. Like, I can't think about anyone else in that way. So for me, what it has meant is that actually the last couple of guys I've dated have been younger, because I think in my head the simplicity of it has been appealing, but actually, like, they've just not been there, like, emotionally, or ready for anything that I need. So for that reason, I just can't be bothered. Like, I mean, that's putting it really simply, but I don't have the energy or the capacity right now to really invest in a relationship in the way that it would need. I mean, obviously, if the right person came along, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not actively looking anymore. And I think for a long time, I really was. I so badly wanted that family dynamic that I I stayed in relationships longer than I should have done. I made myself quite miserable, really. So for me now, like, the most important thing is about my happiness, the children's happiness, maintaining that stability and consistency for us, and then everything else will come. I'm not, yeah.
Exactly. Love always comes when you're not looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like my husband, I was definitely not looking for someone who is about to divorce and who has a child. I was definitely not looking for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and somehow it just happened. So I have I had two questions from Instagram for you. One was like how we can help as a stepmoms to moms. But I think you kind of replied to it like in a way like communication and
Yeah.
is there anything else you would add or?
For me, a lot of the things that I feel like, why does this always fall to me? So, like, arranging childcare and paying for school dinners, paying for school trips, because I get the emails, but my ex also gets them, but I'm always the one that has to deal with it. So for me, actually, what I've started doing is certain things I just push back on him and I say, can you do that one? So, if it's the kind of situation where there is, a good level of communication between the stepmom and the mum, that, actually some of the stuff like that could just be done. Um, I guess for me, it's like the thing that would really help is if there was more anticipation of the children's needs. So things like during, when it's coming up to, the new school year, if my ex was more proactive and saying, okay, like, the kids obviously need a new lot of school uniform. What are we thinking? Like, let me go get this, rather than me always being the one to have to anticipate things and deal with things. Like, I'm constantly thinking ahead because, that's just what needs to happen. so for me, that would be a massive burden off. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's such an individual thing, but definitely, yeah, good levels of communication is what I think helps the most.
There's another question that is kind of tricky one, not a tricky one, kind of interesting one. What do you need to do to get a mom's blessing?
Um, oh, for me, I think my ex had a couple of girlfriends, and I just knew that they weren't going to be right at all. And so there wouldn't have ever been anything that they could have done because it was just very obvious that it wasn't the right thing. Um, for me, with his current girlfriend, she hasn't had to do any. I've felt comfortable from day one. I think at the beginning there were certain things like it did annoy me that like they didn't say to me, or my ex didn't say to me, by the way, she's going to meet the children. And I felt like, but that was on him, not on her.
Yeah.
But I felt that he should have told me in advance because I think, that kind of thing, it's important. Also, they took the kids away last summer, which again, it was a brilliant thing. But if they'd sort of asked, not asked my permission, but if it was like, we would like to do this, hope that's okay with you, kind of thing. And of course it would have been, but to not, for the kids to tell me rather than them tell me, it's that kind of stuff. Again, it boils down to communication. It's just, like, even, so I don't know, it's a weird one. I think even when stuff's really, really positive, if you're hearing it via the children versus them, it does feel a bit weird. Like it feels like the kids are like little messengers almost. And I don't like that. But again, it's such an individual thing. Some people just would not want to hear from the stepmom or the new woman, or, I personally don't feel that way. I don't feel like anything kind of emotional towards my ex. So it's not, I don't know, but I can assume in a lot of situations there might be a lot of jealousy or resentment. Luckily, in our situation, that doesn't exist. But I think the biggest thing, though, is it's probably time. As the mum, you want to sort of see that something's going to pan out and that person's going to be there consistently. So I think sometimes it's just time that, that's what's required to sort of build those relationships and build that level of trust. Because it isn't an overnight thing.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of stepmoms, they are looking for, the blessing or sort of acknowledgement or kind of, yeah, oh, thank you from the moms. But I think you don't necessarily like, I definitely was craving for it at some point because I just wanted to know that I'm doing a good job, or she trusts me. So I think it's and I got it, and I got that like no, I'm happy because my daughter is safe with you. I know she's looking up, you're looking after her. She's never complained or things like that. So I got that kind of like validation or acknowledgement. But I think like for any stepmoms, I just don't push it. What? Like if you don't hear complaints, you're doing good.
So I think if, it's it's a situation where I think everyone's feeling a little bit vulnerable. And actually what deep down you're really searching for is a bit of reassurance. And I think the more you can give that to yourself, like telling yourself, I know I'm doing a good job because I'm doing the best that I can do in this situation. I think the more you tell yourself those things rather than looking for it elsewhere, it's something that I do for myself because I don't have a partner there say good job or like, oh, dinner was awesome, or even just the stupid stuff. There's no one there giving me that kind of feedback, so I give it to myself. Because if I don't celebrate even the little things in my life like that, the stuff that I'm doing, right, damn, you nailed all the stuff that you had to do today, or like, if I didn't do that, I just, I wouldn't get it from, because I don't get it from men, like you get it occasionally with the kids, like, but not so much, and it's not consistent. But I think also looking to anyone else to kind of fill that also I think can be quite dangerous, because it might feel okay in that moment of like, oh, I got that reassurance I needed, but actually then you begin to rely on it, like, oh, I need this validation, I need this reassurance. So the more you can do that for yourself, I think it's so important, I guess, just in every aspect in life, not just this. Yeah, so the reality is that also some people may never get that blessing anyways. Like, there are situations where people are they're never going to be happy that their ex has moved on. They're just never going to be content with that. And I think it just says so much about that person. Like, ultimately, for myself, for my ex, for the situation with our children, like, we were very clear at the beginning that the most important thing to us is that the children are happy, and that means we're not together, and whatever we need to do as individuals to make ourselves happy, that's the really important stuff. So I think not everyone has that attitude, but it's definitely been so good for us. And I think the more people can try and adopt that same level of, you know what, this wasn't an ideal situation, but we're all allowed to move on. We're all allowed to have our lives, and we're all allowed to be happy. And yeah, trying to heal from a difficult relationship is hard. So I think a lot of acceptance that things maybe don't look how you wish they would look is very, very key.
Brilliant. You know what? It was so well said. And I had a last question for you, but I don't think I will ask because, because you just summarized it so very well. Because my last question was like, if there is any like top advice for new single moms and stepmoms you would give. If you do have one more top one, like, give it to us. And use like, or like this podcast or this video is just so much so much to learn from you and what you're saying, like, for me as a stepmom, but I'm sure for a lot of single moms out there, they will be so glad that we did this episode.
Yeah, oh good, I'm glad. Yeah, I definitely think, like, I'm still learning every day, and I constantly feel like, oh, I could be doing this better or that better. And I think for me, like, the biggest lesson in this whole process, being a parent and everything else, is just accepting that things just happen, and it often it's just not the way that you want it, and letting go of so much stuff, I think, like, has been so key for me. Just yeah, and accepting that this is what it is right now, and it will not be forever. So I think, and that's something that I do tell myself a lot. It's like, okay, this isn't not ideal, but we'll get through it. And and you do just find ways to make things work. And life just moves on. It just does. Like, that's just a fact. And I think the best thing that you can do is find as much good in the situation that you're in. And I think, especially, for single parents, especially the ones that don't have much support, whether it's family or the ex, and there's issues with money, I know that compared to a lot of people, my situation's a very fortunate one. So I don't know what I would do, if the situation was very different. I think having to worry about money or that kind of stuff, it must be just horrendous in a totally different level. So yeah, I don't know. I think in those sorts of situations, I know, what I'm talking about maybe doesn't even necessarily apply, because it's so different. But yeah, I don't know. It's all stuff that I'm learning, and I want to keep learning and keep doing better. So for me, that's the aim for my life and my children, is just to keep doing what I'm doing better.
But the important is that whatever tips or advice you shared or experience you share with us, it's good, like, because you can apply it to anyone's situation, and it's like, okay, maybe not be financially or in a way communication or relationship there yet,
Yeah.
We are somewhere like it's just really difficult, but we can get there. We can slowly just applying the tips and tools, you gave us, I'm giving on my podcast or videos. So it's just slowly applying and just growing.
Oh yeah, and taking little bits and applying, like so maybe that doesn't apply to your life, but this bit
Yeah,
does. And yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Megan, really thank you for being up for it and doing the podcast, because I think this episode will just help a lot of stepmoms and moms out there. And
I hope so.
yeah, I'm sure like one day we will be doing this episode number 2.
I hope so. Yeah, no, definitely. Let's keep in touch, and we can, I don't know, maybe next time there'll be a stepdad on the scene. Who knows? Like,
Exactly. We never know. Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you very much again. Everyone who is interested to find more about Megan, go to her Instagram, Sober Story. You have a website,
.co.uk. Yeah.
soberstory.co.uk. I will add obviously links in the descriptions afterwards. So have a look. Definitely go and follow her, because even though you're drinking, you can go and follow her, because she, whatever she's sharing with her, life and journey is amazing. So you don't need to be sober to follow her. Yeah. But it's obviously good life being sober.
Yeah. It is. Well, I love it. Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you very much.